Hi, I'm Karl Konrad and welcome to Australian Immigration News, proudly brought to you by Australian Immigration Law Services here in Sydney. With all the talk of recession around the world for 2023, Australia finds itself in a unique position to withstand the full impact. The Treasurer Jim Chalmers was proud of the latest job growth figures this week.
I think the most pleasing aspect of these jobs growth numbers is the context and the conditions that they were created in. As the global economy has been slowing, our jobs growth in Australia has been accelerating. Even as global conditions deteriorated in the back half of last year, even as our challenges grew, more and more jobs were created here in Australia, and we should be proud of that.
So why is this relevant to immigration news? Because the more growth in jobs comes more skills in demand, and that of course means more opportunities for an increase in migrants to fill the gaps. There have also been figures to indicate the influx of so many temporary residents since the government took office that the 235,000 net migration figure projected in the October budget last year may very well be exceeded already.
His question about the 235,000 assumed in the budget, we will obviously update that in the usual way as we get towards the May budget. I think it is a reasonable assumption that the number that's printed in the budget for that year may be higher than 235,000.
Of course, this admission led to some speculative figures floating out there, such as the story in the Financial Review, predicting it could be as high as 300,000 already. The Victorian Premier Dan Andrews was cited in the Age newspaper yesterday that he supported a rise in the migration cap numbers. No doubt there is pressure being felt on the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, to raise the cap to more than 195,000 for this financial year, when one of your best supporters is making these public calls. Don't they make a lovely couple? The Treasurer also highlighted the increase in demand in the care economy and the shortages of skilled workers both now and into the future. With the shortage of childcare workers of 10,000 in Victoria and 17,000 in New South Wales, he was asked to outline the government plans.
Well, we need to train more workers in the care economy and more broadly as well. It's been clear for some time that we've got skills shortages in our economy acting as a handbrake on achieving our economic objectives. The care economy is going to be a huge employer in this country, whether it is early childhood education, aged care, disability care, right across the care economy. We need to train more workers. We understand that.
So there you go. If you want to know what courses are best to study in Australia that will give you a good employment prospect and in particularly a good migration outcome, that is the best advice I could give you. We are yet to see care workers placed on the skilled occupation list, but we feel that it is just a matter of months before they are. Some interesting figures were obtained from a Freedom of Information request which examined the 600 tourist visa and applications between July and October last year. The information obtained details the applicant's passport, the processing centres and the percentage of visa grants. The figures indicate that Indian nationals do worse if China is the processing centre, where only 29% are successful in their tourist stream application. This is compared to those who were processed in Australia, where 85% were successful. Also, high percentage grant rates were obtained where Indian nationals were processed in the USA at 99%, Fiji at 95%, Singapore at 94% and 93% in Malaysia. Now, Indian nationals who had their applications processed in India had a 90% success rate in the business stream, but only a 77% success rate in the tourist stream. Remember, the Visitor 600 visa has three streams: the business stream, the tourist stream and the Australian sponsored stream. We will leave a link in the description below to this FOI result for those looking for something interesting to read before going to bed. Remember, it is not necessarily the case that your location when you lodge a visa application means that it will be processed in that country. It is quite common that where processing centres get too busy, applications are spread out to others. It is unlikely that the 40,000 2,000 plus visa applications processed in China of Indian nationals were all in China when they lodged their applications. So if you have an Indian passport, you just have to pray your visitor visa is not sent to China to be processed. Now, if you have a Chinese passport and your application is processed in China, then surprise, surprise, you have a 70% chance of obtaining a visa in the tourist stream. However, if you hold a Nepalese passport and your application is processed in China, then you only stand a 22% chance of success. However, if you compare the 81% chance of success if processed in Australia, well, you would have to wonder what the hell is going on. Am I the only one that sees this, or is there something wrong with this picture? And speaking about something wrong with this picture, take a look at this one sent by the Tasmanian government to some 491 and 190 visa holders and visa applicants to their mobile phones. In bold red capital letters designed to capture your attention, it states, "To those who have left Tasmania or planning to leave Tasmania after getting their 491-190 visa, please read this very carefully." Now, this text was sent to someone making a simple inquiry whether they could leave Tasmania after their 491 visa was granted. Let's take a look at some of the implications of this message. Tasmania visa state nominees agree to work and live in Tasmania for at least 2 years from the date of the grant of their visa. Well, there's no issues about this, for yes, it is true about what applicants agreed they would try and do. However, it is the rest that we have serious issues with. Whilst some might move from the state to other states for various reasons, we will advise Home Affairs, if asked during their applications for PR or citizenship, that they did not meet their obligations to Tasmania. Home Affairs will then make their decisions accordingly. Are you kidding me? This is complete rubbish and is specifically designed for one purpose only: to intimidate and bluff you into staying in Tasmania. Let's break it down to prove my point. We will advise Home Affairs if asked during their applications for PR or citizenship. For one thing, Home Affairs is not going to ask for they do not care. It is not a regulatory requirement for PR or citizenship applications that such applicants have stayed in the area that sponsored them. You can see lately how much the Immigration Department really cares about those who have applied for their 491 visas. They have been sending them multiple 189 visa invitations. I'm afraid the joke is on you, Tasmania, for Home Affairs do not care at all about all those you nominated for the 491 visa. You can be pretty sure that once they get their 189 visas granted, they will quickly withdraw their 491 application. Their next sentence: "We have in the past withdrawn our state visa nominations and will continue to do so." Well, this is true. They can withdraw their nomination during the processing of a 491 or 190 application, but once a visa is granted, they no longer can withdraw anything and have no power over the visa holder's life. However, it's this last section of this text that really gets my back up. Rest assured, we have not ignored your initial email to us. Well, that's pretty obvious, for they turned around and sent this nasty text message. However, it has a more sinister, evil note to it and conveys a threatening tone. I mean, are we living in Russia or North Korea? In Australian, governments do not have the right to send threatening letters, emails or texts that are based upon misinformation and are designed to intimidate and threaten people. It's being cleverly written, just enough to scare people that leaving your sponsoring state will somehow have a negative impact upon your PR or citizenship applications, but not really saying anything of substance. Sending this type of text message to our guests in this country on temporary visas is completely un-Australian, and to the Tasmanian government, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Now it's time for a couple of our viewers' comments for this week. The first one is from Ravneet, who writes, "Hi Karl, great info. But what about the occupations in the short-term list like enrolled nurses? Are they going to stay on the occupation list in Queensland, and any hope of for the 189 to be considered for these occupations?" Ravneet, we will find in the near future there will be a big shake-up in the occupation list, and as we mentioned earlier in this edition, care occupations in particular, which includes health professionals, will be highly sought after. Our second comment is from Nami, who writes, "Hi Karl, we love your videos and are considering booking booking an appointment with your team. As you mentioned, we can submit multiple EOIs for several visa categories, subclass 189, 491 and 190. How about submitting multiple EOIs regarding several occupations? We have submitted the EOI as production engineer, and now we want to submit an EOI as management consultant. Are we allowed to do that, or does it make a conflict? NAMI, you can make multiple EOIs for as many skilled occupations as you have positive skill assessments for. No, there is not a conflict for the 189 visa, but make sure all these state-sponsored EOIs have their individual EOIs set up. And a big thank you for all of your comments this week and the positive feedback you send in with them. And that's all for another fascinating week in the world of Australian immigration. Stay tuned for our weekly episodes and other videos we publish. However, I must admit, producing these weekly news episodes takes most of the video time that I have. Now, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss anything, and if you need assistance, book a time with us so we can help you out. As always, take care out there, and I'll see you next time. So bye for now.